What's up, everyone? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So one that was coming out on the 6th of May that we both had our eyes on just because we had recently listened to their second album, or rather his. This is a one-man project, by the way.
Yes.
Was the newest offering from Cosmic Putrefaction, Crepuscular Dirge for the Blessed Ones. This comes out again on the 6th of May on Profound Lore Records. This is actually their debut on Profound Lore. They were on I Avoid Hanger for a while. This band formed in 2018 in Italy. This is the third album they've done. And again, this is a one-man death metal act when it comes down to the composition of all this. One Gabriel Gramaglia. He's been doing this since 2018, and man, this guy can write some chaotic, insane death metal.
Now he is joined by a pretty good drummer, Giulio Galati from Hideous Divinity.
Yes. And again, that is kind of the right fit just in terms of how chaotic and wild this brand of death metal is, because that dude is an accomplished drummer. And you would need one to do this, because this is some absolutely chaotic, atmospheric, strange death metal. It's kind of all over the place, especially when it comes down to production and the overall sound, because layering is a huge thing with this band.
It's like a 37-layer burrito.
And it's meat and beans and like car keys, impacts.
Man, car keys.
There's a human toe in there. It's it's just a lot of stuff. But I mean, surprisingly, it all works, because I think this is like one of those albums designed to create a very strange atmosphere. And the atmosphere is such a huge part. The opening track, Through Withered Horizons, is kind of the nice setup. And honestly, in terms of intros, because we know how much I like to bitch about those, it's pretty solid. Like, it's actually a song, and it kind of sets the mood. Like, it kind of sweeps in with these ambient synths, and it sounds like a
It's like beach. A day at the space beach.
Yeah, except aliens are washing on shore and they're going to feast on your face. But as soon as the music starts kicking in, you're greeted to a giant ghastly scream from the bottom of a well, which they didn't help him out of, I don't think. He sounded pretty desperate because he screamed more than once.
Yeah, well, he stepped on some Legos or something.
It was
stepped
bad.
On some Legos at the bottom of a well.
Who the fuck put those Legos there?
Somebody that had it out for him. Sorry, bud.
But this kind of curtails into a lot of the stuff you're going to hear in here. Very layered, dissonant guitars, wild drums, though this is kind of like a cool breakdown to start you out, but you're going to get some insanity later on. And layered vocals. There's a lot of layered vocals on here, both growls, screams. There's whispers and groans underneath the music. Very creepy, and then go headlong into Soul's upheaval debris, and here we go.
Very creepy atmosphere the whole time. Underneath, like a constant drone in this song, I've noticed. Like, okay, so the record prior to this, I thought had a lot of like mud and grime to it. So the mud is gone, but the chaos is still there. But there's just a drone that creates the ambience this time instead of like murk.
Yeah, apparently Gabriel did do the mixing on this one, and honestly, this is one of those albums where I think only the person that created it could possibly mix this.
Correct.
Because, again, so many layers, so much going on, and there's like more than just like layers to guitars and layers to vocals, and there's extra instrumentation, there's synths, there's tons of different kinds of distortion and guitar sounds. You get clean sounds that come on top of like death metal tremolos that, again, kind of create this weird gothic but cosmic sort of vibe, and it's just kind of strange. Like, you picture a vampire in Victorian garb, but he's got cybernetic limbs or something like that, and you're on a spaceship that looks like a harpsichord. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but again, it makes for a very interesting listen. But at the backbone of this album is all things steeped in blood incantation, sulfur aeon, Morbid Angel, of course, because who doesn't love early Morbid Angel? And even bands like Gorephilia, who they definitely love Morbid Angel too. But the strange atmospheric stuff that comes in, the layering, I think that's what really sets us apart, because, I mean, you get tons of just nasty death metal moments, especially on songs like Cradle Wrecked, Curtains Unfurled.
Oh my god.
And Lysergic Sulfuric Waters. This guy's second language is English, and he actually has a better vocabulary than any of us. But those songs leap straight into just nasty death metal. The opening riff on Lysergic Sulfuric Waters is pretty much in like 10 of my favorite incantation songs, and I absolutely love it. It's steeped in evil and very layered, but I like the fact that this song, Cradle Wrecked and Curtain Unfurled, both kind of are just heavy and brutal right away.
It's almost more so straightforward death metal before the weird ambient crazy comes in.
And it comes in.
Cradle Wreck, Curtain Unfurled definitely just starts, just balls out. Heavy riff. Kind of reminds me of like old Faceless Moments.
There's definitely a lot of like strange ambiance. Lysergic actually has like gothic choir sections in it. Like they're just in there for a quick and then they're done for a little bit and then they come back again, and he layers it with the growls too. And again, there's so much going on that it is hard to like pick apart individual layers on here, but the overall effect is confusing, but in a good way. Like, you're really drawn into this.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot to pay attention to. Like, and let me say this too. This record, more so than the last one, from what I remember, this has so many more like beefy, chuggy moments. It's weird. It's like it's focused on this big, beefy, nasty riff, but it's also focused on this weird, spacey ambience. But it's also focused on a hodgepodge of amazing drum work to go behind all these riffs, and it's gross.
One of the best examples, I think, of everything that he said is From Resounding Silence to the Obsidian Womb. Again, man, these song titles are crazy. The opening to that has what I would describe as a filthy autopsy riff, except you have Pete Sandoval playing drums instead of Chris Reifer on it.
It's fair.
Faster, more blast beats, but the riff itself is gnarly. It's almost kind of punky. It sounds dirtier than almost every riff on here. But this song does a good job in terms of pivoting back and forth between like some solid death metal hooks and then strange ambience.
Yep.
There's a lot of like dissonant spots that kind of like phase in and out of the mix, and it again creates this weird effect, but that filthy autopsy-ish riff repeats, and then there is a massive chuggy breakdown which made him very happy.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that this is one of the heaviest grooves on the album. This weird kind of riff, but it's got halftime drums underneath it, and it's just absolutely filthy.
And it repeats. Like,
yes.
This isn't one of those albums where you just hear a cool moment for a second and then like, oh, no, that moment fucked off and we are on to the next place in the cosmos, I guess, in this album. They actually repeat a lot of like really killer hooks on here, and with all the chaos that's going on, it's kind of necessary to have some good hooks to follow.
Yep. It's almost like a little refreshing when you get to that point, even though that song's really early on in the record. It's cool to have something to grasp onto, because while there's a lot of cool riffs and a lot of cool things going on, there's not so many of those grab onto this riff and hold on to it and dry hump it out. This song just stands out to me.
But when it comes down to like stuff that isn't necessarily the most death metal but still is definitely death metal in a way, Twisting Spirals in the Murk, which could have been the title of this album, I think.
It's fair.
Honestly, the entire time I was listening to it, it sounds like if Mastodon, Circa Leviathan, or Remission got together with Immolation and was like, all right, we have to write a song that sounds like both of us. And both bands were like, okay, that's
that's
gonna be
interesting.
Tough.
Yeah, that's.
But somehow, like, that is sort of the vibe. Like, this kind of reminds me of like Hearts Alive or Megalodon mixed with literally anything off like the last 4 Immolation albums. It's very angular, very dissonant, but there's really interesting clean harmonies in there. There's some cleaner playing on there too, but it all comes together in this very cosmic, strange sort of sound, and then you have these big, burly death metal moments and these deep, gnarly vocals on top. So I don't know, like, it really is like a big standout on this album just in terms of the overall vibe and sound of it.
And the last song on this track, the title track, Crepuscular Dirge for the Blessed Ones, this one is kind of cool in the sense that there's not a lot going on by way of vocals. There are some here and there, but really this is like a gradual builder of a song. Like, it starts out with ambience and clean melody, and it gradually gets a little bit louder, and then it kicks into this incantation disma type, just nasty death doom riff. It's such a strange composition of a song. There's a lot of melody going on in there, but overall it might be the most straightforward song.
One of those. I mean, honestly, it has one of the most straightforward heavy moments on it, and it also has one of the most straightforward, like, clean, pretty moments. In fact, the whole closing of it, I think, is very pretty. And the opening, too. The opening is really nice. They kind of harmonize a piano and some guitars, and it's a really cool mood builder. And that's kind of a thing, like, that doesn't happen as often on here. A lot of these songs just fucking go. This song took its time to sort of build up, and I think it kind of stands out for that reason. But sometimes, some of these songs get just a little too crazy, at least for me. The song Amniotic Bewilderment. Bewilderment is accurate.
Sure.
This song is batshit fucking crazy. And like, a lot of this is batshit crazy. I mean, just in terms of like the construction and all the elements coming in. This one, everything's kind of just hitting you at once. You're like, wait, hold on, what?
This reminds me of like if Morbid Angel and Voivod wrote a song together.
With Portal.
With Portal, yeah. I mentioned Portal earlier too. Yeah, and you're like, what the hell is happening? In the beginning, there's some sort of like almost like chorish riff, like a metalcore type, like weird thing.
It's a weird spot,
right?
Like, you know. I don't think I should be thinking about like Lamb of God or like deathcore bands at all, but there's a spot where it kind of leads into this big stomping sort of like bowl thrower groove that the lead in, how they isolate it, and you have that single pat, pat, pat with the snare, kind of reminded me more of like, you know, like mid 2000s metalcore and groove metal. But how it opens is kind of with the almost Portal tremolo harmony. It's just a pure wall of dissonance and blasts, and it sounds horrifying. But this song is just batshit crazy in terms of the transitions. There's one like particular transition that kind of works as a beat, but it's a weird fill, and then there's kind of like little disco hi-hat for just a second, and then boom, you're back into the insanity.
Like it gets bouncy for a second, and then
just for a little bit.
Yep.
And then later on, like you start hearing like an acoustic guitar kind of pushed up in the mix, you know, just a little bit enough, you know, to hear it over the tremolo riffs, and there's even a tambourine thrown in there too.
Because why not? I mean, really, at that point in the game, if you're gonna make a song that sounds as strange as that, why not? Hell, put in a harmonica. Where the hell is the accordion?
This song, while of course I like the fact that they just kind of pushed themselves and created this wall of insanity with batshit crazy transitions, it just is a bit too much. And compared to the rest of the album, things feel a little bit more meticulously constructed when it comes down to like the bigger tracks. That one was probably the only one that really stood out to me as maybe just, I don't know, a little too chaotic. But overall, my complaints are very minimal about this.
Yeah.
This was a really fucking wild listen. Like, this was just insane. But it all comes together really well. Like, that's kind of a testament to the songwriting. Like, because, I mean, you can write crazy shit left and right and just kind of try to piece it together. But if it doesn't work, well, your fan's going to tell you. This works.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I dig this. I think this is an improvement on the last one, and I really like the last one, though this one kind of scales back some of the chaos. I think the mix is better, and just sort of spacing out all the twisted stuff on here, because there's a lot going on. At its core, again, very similar to like Morbid Angel Incantation, Blood Incantation.
All the bands we love.
Yeah. Dead Congregation, throw that in there too. But it's the stuff they do around it. The stuff that, you know, adds the atmosphere, the weird clean harmonies in terms of guitars that are all over here, the spacey keys. That stuff kind of makes it stand out a bit more. That's these kind of like what the fuck moments that kind of catch you, that really draw you in even more, because at its core, you're still going to get great fucking death metal. So yeah, if you love any of the bands that we mentioned in comparison, definitely check this out. This is a fucking nuts listen, and I can't wait to listen to it again.
It's a 4 for me as well. It's fun to see a band write something so chaotic yet make it so cohesive. While there are crazy parts that are just out of left field and you're like, what the hell just happened to me? At the same time, there's a lot more actual, like, just brutal death metal that's in here that I think was missing from the last album. The production on here is by far greater. Not that I had a real problem with the production before, but like, it's just a little bit cleaner. You can hear, even though it's layered to shit, you can hear each one of those layers. Like it's possible to kind of pick it apart a little bit.
All 40 guitars.
All right, all 40 guitars and all 30 vocal tracks and whatever the hell is happening on the drums, which is a great piece of work. There's groove and hooks, which there were kind of missing before. So there's a lot to latch on to. Very memorable moments.
As technical as it is, it's very riffy.
Yeah.
And I think that's important if you're doing like some mind-altering death metal.
Which is what's happening. So yeah, 4 for me. Good fucking job.
So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below. We are going to add a feature probably after MDF. We'll let you know about that when it happens, but we want to kind of give the Patreon people some fun shit to do. Technically to us. More on that later. Anyway, there's also a link down there to thrallsmetal.com where you can order a t-shirt if you would like. And as for future stuff, there's plenty coming. We are working on the Exodus ranking and plenty of reviews, lots of releases coming up. There's just
there's a ton of stuff. We got a lot going on, which is what we wanted. So.
A lot of reasons to hang out in my basement, which sounds lame because it is.
Right, it sounds, look, come on. Come on.
Maybe it's less lame than it was like a few years ago.
There's a couple more like trinkets down here.
Yeah. Shit. But as always, thank you all so much for subscribing, watching, following, even pestering and commenting and all that. We love
Pestering.
Pestering. There's pestering. I'm sure there's pestering.
Oh, I'm sure there's pestering.
But we want to thank you guys once again for all that. And of course, we will catch you later.